Good evening, Joy TV viewers. Welcome to Makamba at Night, and please do join me in continuing in welcoming Dr. Edson Zobo, who currently is the Member of Parliament for Masvingo South and Chairman of the Parliamentary Legal Committee, and of course he's a barrister, as you know. He's a lawyer by training and has held numerous positions in government and in the party, and is currently a member of the Central Committee of the ruling ZANU-PF. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Doctor, comrade, father, grandfather, mister, all these titles.
Call me what you will. Grandfather, I have 6 grandchildren right now.
Incredible.
And I'm feeling very proud about it.
Doctor, last night we left our interview where your political phase, you had joined the NDP.
Yes. I was at Roma in 1959 and came back during the holidays in December. We found that there was a vacuum. The ANC had been banned. The leaders had been arrested and rusticated. Edson Stole, Paul Mushonga,
James Chikerema.
The whole lot.
The whole lot.
Some were in Kami, some were in Shurugwi prison.
This was under which administration?
It was immediately after Whitehead had fallen, so it was now
the Rhodesian Front.
The RAF.
Was Ian Smith the leader right from its formation?
No. It was this Marondera farmer. Oh, come on.
The name will come.
Yeah, the name will come.
And he was succeeded by
He was
Ian
Prime
Smith.
Minister.
He was Prime
but
Minister.
Pushed aside by Ian Smith. So during the holidays, we said, we can't let the situation. We can't leave the situation like this. Let's form a successor
to the NDP.
To the NDP. We met, when I say we, I mean myself and others. Siyangapi Samkange.
Siyangapi Samkange. Any relation to the late professor?
Yes, Sketchley was the youngest in the Samkange family. Michael Mawema, Chris Mushonga. We met at 399 Old Highfield.
Whose house was that?
That was Mushonga's, I'm sure. With others, we had several meetings.
So Dr. Joshua Nkomo was in arrested.
Oh,
yeah. Was in detention.
He was in London. The banning of the ANC occurred when he
was in London.
When he was abroad.
So he remained there.
Yeah, and we had younger people like Henry Potter and others. We agreed that we should form the National Democratic Party, but we must choose. We must find a leader who would be brave enough to
take on the system.
To take on the system. And there was Michael Mawema, who was working for the railways. He agreed. Fairly soon, we had T.G. Slundika, who was working as a chemist, as a chemistry assistant at the university. We decided we would form it on the 1st of January, 1960.
The reason for that day?
Well, it was just convenient.
It's my birthday, by the way. The 1st of January.
That was the first day I addressed a political rally in Marondera. The 1st of January 1960.
Where in Marondera?
Marondera, it's now all built up, but there was a ground where I went with the T.G. Slundika. But then others like Innocent Kala and so on, were all over.
Do you remember the size of the crowd, the audience?
300-400.
As members.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first,
So
in your first speech, political speech, do you remember the content?
the content was, our leaders are in prison. We must continue until they come out to come and resume their leadership. We were very clear. We were very clear about that. In fact, we communicated with the leaders who were in prison. We did the constitution, sent it down to Shurugi prison.
Were there any amendments from those in prison?
A few.
A few. You were a lawyer already?
No.
No.
I was doing my BA
in South Africa.
in political science
Yes.
and Shona and history.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I can't serve on the executive. I still have to go and finish my. The others then became members of the interim executive, which eventually became the permanent executive.
So the
It
interim
caught-
executive was led by the late Dr. Michael Mawema.
Yes. Yeah, it caught the attention of the public and generated widespread support.
There was excitement.
Excitement with Dumiso Darengwa out that side in Bulawayo and others. By June, July, that's when President Mugabe came back
From Ghana.
from Ghana. And he also joined the others as publicity secretary. Joshua Ngomo returned for the conference, which was later that year, to take over the leadership. But
Where was the conference held? Was it held in Harare?
No, it was held in Bulawayo. Yeah. In June when I came back, I was then persuaded, in fact instructed, by the old man, Joshua Ngomo, and Morton Malianga, who was the vice president, to accept to be chief representative of the NDP
In South Africa?
in North America.
Ah,
In North America.
yet you hadn't graduated.
No, I hadn't.
You had.
I hadn't. So there was my warrant, my certificate of appointment, signed by Ngomo and Morton Malianga. But fortunately, the Americans were floating scholarships here. And I applied for a scholarship. The old man Wakatama,
The professor.
the professor,
Yes.
interviewed us at the Jameson Hotel.
He was working for
and
the
then
American Embassy.
And then Dalamingi Stole,
He was working for the
the
scholarship
the scholarship.
commission.
Yeah. And I won a scholarship, which was very helpful, because otherwise how could I have lived in America? That's how I went to the United
To
States.
the United States.
Yes.
So strictly speaking, you were going to study. The political agenda was not known to
No,
to
but-
Wakatama and others.
No, to Wakatama, no.
And to the Americans, of course, no.
To the Americans, it became very clear. Immediately I got there, because I petitioned before the decolonization committee
In Congress.
at the United Nations. At the United Nations.
So you arrived in America what year?
In June, July 1961,
To study.
to study and also now representative.
Now, what were you studying for now?
I was trying to finish
complete.
yeah.
Your arts degree.
Yeah, but I was too busy running around the United States. At the same time, I wanted to complete my South African degree
By a long distance.
by a long distance, and I wrote
Mhm.
the finals, the finals in the South African embassy in Washington, and got my South African degree. At the same time, getting my degree from Tufts University
In what?
in government.
Just
That's what they call it there,
government
which
administration.
is really political science.
Hmm.
And then the NDP got banned, and I was reappointed chief representative for ZAPU,
ZAPU was the successor party
the successor
to the
party.
NDP.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The whole of, for 9 months in 1962. Then when it was banned, I had to come home to come and find out what next. I got back at the time when the leadership was leaving the country for Tanzania.
62.
Yes, just in
Hmm.
1962, 63 March, April,
Hmm.
I got back here and found that the leaders were going to Tanzania. The version was we have been asked by Nyerere to come and form a government in exile, but the others, like Robert Mugabe, did not really do. We were extremely skeptical
Hmm.
about it, and Leopold Takawira
And the invitation had come to ZAPU as a party.
to Zambia,
And then Takawira,
a banned party.
Mugabe, everybody belonged to
That's right,
ZAPU then.
to ZAPU, yeah. No, yeah,
Mhm.
to ZAPU. So I was told that I had to follow to Tanzania. So I took my wife, by the way, I had gotten married in 61.
Where in back here at home.
Here,
And
in 61,
your wife came from where?
from Shurugi.
Kirubi.
Yeah.
And you had met her in Harare.
We met at Tegwani.
She was teaching.
She was a student,
Uh-huh.
like me.
And then you how many years later did you get married?
Oh, it was a long apprenticeship. 6 years.
You don't regret it?
No, I don't. And
So when you left for Tufts University, you then left with your wife?
at the beginning, no, she
Mhm.
remained here.
Mhm.
We were expecting our first son.
Edison,
No, our first daughter.
Sungis.
No, Karin.
Sorry, Karina.
Yeah. And so when I came back in 63 in March, the idea was to return to the United States with my wife
And the child.
and child. And we actually gave a farewell party here,
To the in-laws. and-
yeah,
and
to everybody. And we traveled by bus with Mrs. Takawira to Lusaka. When we got there, the old man, Takawira, said, "Where do you think you are going with Julia? And you have brought
You brought my wife.
You have brought my. Where do you think you are going?" I said, "I'm going back to go and finish my studies." He said, "Nonsense. We put them on the bus to go back home. You are not
the wives.
You are not going any place. We must form another party." At home.
Because ZAPU had been banned.
ZAP had been banned. That is what caused the split.
Mhm.
Others said, "We are not forming any new party because it will be banned,
Mm.
like all the predecessors." And there had also been a change, noticeable change among the leadership. Some wanting armed struggle as the only answer. Others a little more subtle, saying, well, I mean, we can
Negotiate.
negotiation.
Eventually.
Yeah. So they met as a leadership in Dar. We're surprised to find that Nyerere was absolutely astounded that the entire leadership could come to Tanzania and leave the people here. Why did you come here?
So it was supposed to be by
You,
invitation.
fo-
wasn't it?
you see. And it turned out he hadn't invited us, invited our leaders in that sense. Anyway,
So who then had
who-
invited
who had-
invited you?
it's a complex matter. Someday you may have the opportunity to hear from
Others.
from others, like Msika, like the president.
Mm.
There's very few left.
Mm.
Uh,
Who know the real story?
the episode. I got into Tanzania, and I was told I must come back and join others in forming a new party, which was to be ZANU, the Zimbabwe African National Union.
So that came out of a difference in philosophy,
In perceptions, in philosophy,
in the strategy to move ahead
yeah.
with the emancipation of.
The others said no, we are staying with Umdala, we are not having another political party. And I and others, I had no real role in deciding that split. I was too young, only chief representative.
Mm.
So I was given letters by Mugabe and by Ndawaningi Stole was already here, by Leopold Takawira, to fly back here and distribute the letters.
Or both the late Ndabaning Stole and the president were in Tanzania.
Ndawaningi Stole was here.
Okay.
Ndawaningi Stole was here.
So you were given letters to take away.
To bring them here,
Mhm.
to Stole and to others who were here. Are
Nkala,
you with me?
Malianga,
Yes, the whole lot.
the whole lot.
So I carried a mail bag back to the airport.
You were the mail boy.
Someone in Dar phoned Chikerema and said, Edson Jobo is coming with letters to form a new party. And of course, he still laughs about it.
Who is that? Chikerema.
Chikerema. I got here, was met by Chikore and Mudara Marere. And went to sleep. And at night, the house was raided. Now James.
What was he then? What was his
He was
position
vice
as
president was up. And
Do you remember what Chinamano was then?
Chinamano had always been treasurer. I
Mhm.
think. And I was taken to Chinamora's house at Machipisa for interrogation.
If you have just joined us on Makamba at Night, we are talking to Dr. Edson Jobo. Please stay with us.
Got dreams? Zimbank can make them come true with LoanSure. LoanSure is a personal loan that gives you money to spend on anything you like, without the need for collateral. And more, the loan is insured against involuntary retrenchment, illness, disability and death. So come into your nearest Zimbank and make sure your dreams come true.
Zimbank, the future of banking today.
GCP Antiseptic promotes rapid, clean healing. For improved, lasting oral hygiene, GCP is the ideal mouthwash and gargle. GCP acts as an all-purpose antiseptic liquid for cuts, burns, grazes, wounds, and insect bites. GCP is also available in ointment form for topical use. Make yours at GCP Home.
Don't worry, I'll sort it, man. There goes one. Ooh. This is for me. It's in line. Hey guys, it's on.
Light attract.
When I was ready, I had already distributed the letters. It was Chikore saw to the distribution.
Yes.
And so I was interrogated, and the following day was then the split.
Who determined who went,
They
who
all- they
remained
all-
with ZAPU
they
and who
all
went to
men.
form the new party
Mudala announced expulsions
of individuals?
of individuals.
Do you remember how many these were?
Ndavaningi Stole, Leopold Takawira, Robert Mugabe, Malianga, and so on and so on.
Nkala,
Nkala, yes, Nkala by name.
was your name mentioned?
My name,
Or you were
yeah,
just
it was
it was-
automatic.
Uh-huh.
It was automatic. We had been expelled, and I had been a courier.
Yes.
And
Caught in the act.
so forming ZANU became then a fait accompli.
Mm.
So we proceeded to make preparations at Nkala's house, just directly across from Leopold Takawira's
In Highfield.
in Highfield near Cyril Jennings Hall.
Mm.
And so we launched ZANU. Meanwhile, what had been ZAPU had become the People's Caretaker Council. They were saying, we are not forming a party, but we will have a caretaker council until the situation changes and we can form parties. But in fact, the caretaker council was ZAPU, the old ZAPU. And we formed ZANU, and my God, that fighting started.
Between
The two.
the
Oh,
youth of ZAPU
ZANU was
and ZANU.
yeah, ZANU was a minority here in Harare, and the beatings were serious. You couldn't travel by bus if you were ZANU from Mufakose, which is where I lived. 16 Mutondo Street.
How were you identified? Did you wear T-shirts?
Oh, yeah.
How did the ZAPU youth
after-
identify you?
No, after we formed it,
You had to wear T-shirts?
I was named as the Deputy Secretary General, Deputy to Mugabe.
The president was the Secretary
No.
General.
Yeah, he was the Secretary General.
And Damaning Stole was the president.
Was the president,
Of the
and
party.
Leopold Takawira
Was
chairman.
vice president. Vice President Muzema,
Vice president.
what was he then?
He was the Deputy National Organizing Secretary under Michael Mawema.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
So the fighting intensified.
Oh, you can say that again. I laugh every day with Sifas.
Msipa.
Musipa.
Yes.
He was headmaster of the school.
Uh-huh.
And
You were teacher.
no, I was already full time coming to the ZANU headquarters
Yes.
every day, but we used to fight pitched battles in Mpakos. Sipa being the most senior there.
ZAPU
ZAPU.
person.
Yeah.
Tell me one thing that a lot of people ask. How did you manage to end up with ZANU as a predominantly Shona party, and ZAPU then remained predominantly in Ndebele party, though of course you had the likes of Chinamano, Chikerema, William Sarurwa,
I was
Msipa,
going to say
who were a minority.
I was going to say that. No, actually, that's a wrong perception. The supporters of ZAPU, after the split, the majority were Shona. Were here.
Murewa,
Right
Chiweshe.
through the whole of Mashingo. You still found lots of. We started as a
Monodawafa.
Yeah, Monodawafa,
Msipa.
Metu, and others. So it's not true that it became
Gradually, maybe.
gradually maybe, but as long as you had people like James Chikerema and George Yadoro there, it was difficult to make that characterization. And in any event, we were banned in 65.
Both of
no,
you?
in 64,
Both parties.
both parties. So it was no longer possible to say how many were where until the elections of 1980.
Since you have opted to move to 1980, at independence you were first Minister of Local Government and Housing. Can you dwell on the challenges that confronted you and how you went about resolving them?
When I was appointed Minister of Local Government and Housing, and by the way, I announced the cabinet to the world after the elections of 1980
How did that
in
happen?
Mikkels. The Prime Minister, Comrade Mugabe said, go announce it.
You were the Prime Minister then.
Yeah.
And you were spokesman for the party at that time.
Yes, that's true.
So it was in that capacity
Yeah,
that he asked
said,
you to...
He said, go announce it. From the moment I became Minister of Local Government, first I had to find out where the building was. And it was Earl Grey.
Yes.
So I went there, accompanied by two young fellows, July Moyo and the other Moyo, what's his name again? Two young fellows.
Whom you had come from
I
Mozambique.
went with. We got to the door. There was an old man there,
The commissioner,
a white guy.
the building commissioner.
He at the gate, he couldn't go in. So I wanted to go up, and they said to me, "Look, apana basa." You know, there's no work here.
Of course, you had
What do
bodyguards.
What do you want?
The usual security.
Yeah, but anyway, we ignored that, and I went up. It was the 14th floor. We got there, everybody was white. Permanent secretary, private secretaries, everybody. And it was quite a scene. And I had this Mufaro Moyo and July Moyo
July Moyo.
and myself.
Are they cousins or brothers?
I'm not sure. So I had two permanent secretaries because it was two ministries.
Then it was called what? The Ministry of what? Internal Affairs?
Internal affairs one side, and the housing the
On
other
the other
side.
side, yes.
Local government and the housing. And introduced myself. They were very courteous, took me into my office, called Mrs. Smith to introduce her. She was my private secretary. The other side, there was another white lady who was private secretary. And there we were, almost marooned. You can't function in those circumstances.
Just the three of you.
Just the three of us. And these two were not civil servants, they were not employed.
They're just party cadres.
And I said, these are my assistants. So give them an office next door. And later I said, nothing comes to me before it goes to July in the Mufaro, which the establishment found very difficult. These were deputy secretaries, permanent secretaries. They had to go to assistants. And they didn't earn any money for 9 months. They were just working for the party and for, under me.
Which was nothing new, of course.
Right, but we plotted how to take over the ministry successfully. I called all the district commissioners from around the country.
We're all white that time.
They were all white. And gave them a comfortable speech. nothing
Will change.
would change. We are going to train assistants for you. Meanwhile, we're looking for young people who had university degrees to undergo training in Jinoi and Domboshawa. As soon as we finished the crash training, I appointed them DAs right through, throughout the country. And they withdrew the district commissioners,
To head office.
no, into town, the nearest town. And I said, your job now is to be consulted by these young fellows. You see, you are now really out of your usual job. Your usual job was to rule people. People have decided to rule themselves. Win the election and with
Yes.
independence. So you are out of your job.
Yes.
But I'm going to make sure that you, since you
remain
have
employed.
experience,
Yes.
you get consulted. That was the only way of withdrawing them into Pindura, into Chinoi, into Mashingo, and so on.
In your own opinion, Minister, what would you say
And
were
then democratize local government.
the institutions? I was just going to
Yes,
ask you,
yes.
what do you think were your major achievements in that ministry?
First, to make sure that all urban areas were democratized immediately. Worked out a formula of creating wards, 39 for Harare, creating wards where there were no wards. And as soon as the Prime Minister approved, we decided immediately to have elections in the new wards. So there was a takeover of all urban councils within a year. And I think that was the most lasting thing. For secretaries and clerks and so on, went to Manyene, to Growth Points, recruited ex-combatants, sent them for training,
Shala.
and they then dispersed them throughout the country.
Of course, July Moyo has gone on to become a cabinet minister.
Yes.
And Mufaro
I think
Moyo,
he's deputy.
secretary,
Yeah.
somewhere. You obviously talk about these
Oh,
your
yeah,
experiences
yeah.
from time to time.
That's true.
Yes.
I stayed at local government for a year and a half, and then was reshuffled
To
to become Minister of Parliamentary and Legal Affairs.
where did you make the statement that that one to qualify for a job needed to have been bitten by mosquitoes? In other words, you had to. Did you strictly mean that one had to have come from the external wings of the party? If so, how about those that supported the struggle within?
No, mosquitoes were both in Mozambique and here. So, our bases were here, our operations were here. Vaibikira Sadza, everybody. In other words, someone who had been associated with the struggle.
Not necessarily
No,
the external
no,
wing of
no.
the party.
It was a critical statement to make at that point,
Why?
because we had just come out of a bitter war. And our first order of business was to consolidate people's power. And then you couldn't do that effectively with the people who had not been sympathetic to the struggle.
You think your move by the president, he was still prime minister then, to the Ministry of Legal Affairs was a strategic one for you to democratize
I
those
think, well,
institutions there?
I think so. There had been no such ministry of legal and parliamentary affairs. There was only a ministry of justice. And I think the president wanted someone who could look at legislation and recommend changes rapidly. And also I became
Leader of the House.
leader of the House.
What challenges lay ahead in that ministry as you look back?
Not too many. It was dry.
Hmm.
It was dry because any ministry which is not nationwide
Hmm.
is a dry ministry. You are perusing books, trying to change the archaic laws and so on. But I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
But within 6 months, there'd been another shuffle. And the Prime Minister then made me Minister of Justice, Legal, and Parliamentary Affairs.
So it became
So
a
I
much bigger
combined,
ministry.
I
Hmm.
combined the lot.
Do you remember, as we sit here talking, how many amendments you made to the Lancaster House Constitution?
Oh, well, I mean, formally, formally, the Constitution, I think 6. Mubako was the first Minister of Justice,
Mhm.
brought in the legal age of majority
Mhm.
amendment. But Constitution of Zimbabwe Amendment Acts number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I did, and 7 is the most important because it introduced the executive presidency.
The 7. I was
Amendment number 7.
from my archives here. When you talk of changes to the Constitution, you in a speech that you gave to Parliament, you say, tonight I seize the opportunity presented to share with you my personal thoughts on the subject. I quote, an agenda for democracy, peace and sustainable development in the SADC region. What prompted that?
This was in 19 what? What, is it dated?
Yes, it's dated. I think it's 1987.
1987.
Mm.
Okay, this was the time of the 7th Amendment.
Mhm.
It was a venture into the unknown, the introduction of the executive presidency.
Hmm.
And if you read my second reading speech and statements like this,
Hmm.
I was sensitizing the public to the fact that we were embarked upon a new experience.
You were trying to give comfort, as it were, to the Legislative Assembly about this new.
That's right.
Because you go on to say, I quote, Mr. Speaker, I believe that governments of the day should not stay in office forever, no matter how popular. In this connection, I believe Zimbabweans should now examine whether it is not time to fix presidential terms. Namibia has done so. Botswana will soon do so, as many other states. Then you go on, I quote, I believe Zimbabwe has been fortunate to have President Mugabe at the helm. We have been stable for 15 years and have scored numerous victories in the social and economic spheres under his leadership. He is wise, articulate, generous, humble, and down to earth. No one doubts his love for the common man. Some of us have journeyed around the country with him. You can read the people's sufferings and pains in his eyes, all over his face. In dealing with colleagues, he is exceptionally even-handed. Those who seek to thrive on backbiting and undermining others have learned the folly of it. He listens patiently, asks a few questions, and makes no comment. Founding fathers, you go on. You are justifying this new constitution without a term, and you say founding fathers like George Washington, Nelson Mandela, Julius Nyerere, Robert Mugabe, and others have no fixed terms. They had to nurture independence and create environments for peace and security. But lesser mortals will come who may with no limitations of term of office, inflict tremendous harm. This has to be borne in mind and be placed on the national agenda for the 21st century.
Right, now I remember that that was not directly during the passage of the Seventh Amendment. It was subsequent to it. The gist of what you have just read, I have always stood by it. I suggested earlier that we have limitation of term. Of course, at that point it didn't succeed. Because we felt then, or the majority in the party felt then, that it was not, there was no palpable need for it. But I think even the rejected constitution of in the year 2000 now had provision for a limitation of term. It is vital. It is vital that terms be limited. That you know when a guy is coming into power and when he is going out. That's healthy. I think some of the things I said there, I could repeat them today.
There is always been a perception, and you haven't denied it, that you yourself, maybe, as ZANU-PF continue to govern, would one day run for public office, for the presidency.
People want me to deny postulates which they have. If you are going to run for elections for public office, you say so. I said I wasn't going to run for office, at least to seek the presidency, as long as the president was there. And I stuck to it.
And you still stand by that?
And I still stand by it.
Your reluctance in the last election, was that just media misquoting you, that you were not keen to campaign?
You know, if you are going to respond to each and every speculation in the media, you get lost in the forest of useless dreams. Let the reality speak. Compare how I did in my constituency. The others were so-called more enthusiastic, you know, won by 4,000 or by 2,000, by 6,000.
You won by?
Always over 10. So
let the record speak for itself.
Let the record speak for itself.
Doctor, are you likely to seek another term as a member of parliament?
As a member of parliament, I have.
You're still thinking about it?
I'm still thinking about it. You know that I'm embarking on some real writing, and that's going to take 2 or 3 years to do. There ought to be life after politics, and one must not devote one's entire life until you drop dead doing this thing.
But probably your generation, if I may just say, I think your generation, probably you have very little choice in that you were always at the front line of politics, and that you have been somewhat responsible for shaping the destiny of our politics, and that maybe that time hasn't come for you to drop.
That is the mistake many people make. I think Nelson Mandela was right. Brought birth to South Africa, and they said to the others,
you don't think that they are
goodbye.
You don't think that it
I
differs
don't
from country
find
to country? The
it-
circumstances
of course,
are different?
Of course, circumstances differ.
Mm.
But once you get locked into the psychology of we can live, because who else will do it? Then you are just becoming silly. Let the people themselves say so.
So in your constituency, you
Even if-
let the people decide
I-
whether you should
Well,
continue as the
I
MP
simply just can't quit
Mm.
without telling them.
or consulting with them.
Yeah, I have to consult with them, tell them that 20 years as a minister is a hell of a long time.
Should they decide?
I will have served in parliament 25 years.
And if they
Oh my God.
insist and persistent that
Well, okay, then that's a different
it's
situation.
a people's will.
I would have to understand the need and the necessity for it.
In the lineage, the Zobo clan or family, do you see a brother or a son or a daughter
Interested in politics.
stepping into the constituency or in politics?
This inheritance idea is a silly thing.
But I mean, as you
No,
look at them, if you look at the Kennedys in America,
no,
it almost becomes a clan of politics.
the Camelot sort of scenario
Hmm.
will sit very badly here in Zimbabwe. Sit very badly.
Hmm.
I think Kennedy got away with the appointment of his brother.
As Attorney General,
Yeah, when his other younger brother was doing
Senator.
senator. It's an unusual situation, even in American terms.
Hmm.
I think one in a family should be one
Or two.
enough.
Or two.
Or two.
In your case, there was you and your wife, of
I
course.
don't, yeah, we were both.
We don't want to marginalize
We were
the
both in the
contribution.
war. She came, she was a member of parliament for 10 years and retired. Look, if my own kids are interested, they should go to the people, because that is what matters.
Let the people decide.
Let the people decide. Let them see them being interested on a day-to-day basis. Let them see them run around for their own benefit. And then it needs no explanation. But I am not going to go out there to the people and suggest to anybody.
That your brother or your
Oh,
son
no.
or anybody like that. Doctor, we've run out of time. You've been extremely kind, but is there
Thanks.
anything that you want to mention to our viewers before you go?
Let's pull through the present problems. And I have every confidence that we will pull through. Zimbabweans have an abundance of common sense. And the current problems, be they economic, political, whatever, I think need cool heads. We should enrich our national experience by the problems we are going through right now, because they will safeguard this nation for the future.
Dr. Edson Zobo on Makamba at Night. 2 episodes with him. I feel like a third one. But in consultation with you, the viewers, tell us what you think about the program, about the interview, about his experiences. If you need a third episode, we'll bring it about. Write to us, email us on the address shown on the show. Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor. You have been extremely kind.
Thank you.
What a wealth of experience, and I'm
Yeah.
sure our viewers have benefited from 2 episodes of talking to you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.